All right, enough of that. So, welcome to today's conversation. I'm going to be talking to Alan Vargas, who is a candidate for California Democratic Party chair. So, I have this little image right here. Yay! No, not this one. This one. Boom! California Democratic Party. So, just to make it clear, Alan is not running for the DNC. He is not running for RCDP. He's running for the California Democratic Party chair position this May. The delegates of the California Democratic Party will be voting on new officers, chair, vice chair, secretary, and a slew of others. Alan is one of two candidates running for this position. This conversation is neither an endorsement or an attack on his campaign. So I ask that anyone who is here, if they want to leave some questions or comments, they are very welcome to do so. But please be respectful in the chat, or you will get your ass banned and kicked. Very important. So yeah, I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this. I just want to. I'm going to throw a few things out here. There's going to be some acronyms that we're going to be using today. KDEM and CDP are both interchangeable for California Democratic Party, and RCDP refers to the Riverside County Democratic Party, of which I'm also a part of, and is in Allen's area. So these will be used. So yeah, so please welcome Mr. Alan Vargas, who is a content creator and an immigrant and union activist. We're gonna be having a little conversation with my homeboy here. Alan, where are you at? Why can't I see Alan? Alan. I can't see you. Of course, it was all working perfectly fine until now. um, what's going on here? All right, give me 1 second to get you on. Oh, so your video's off. Okay, cool, perfect. So now there you are. Okay, perfect. There's Alan. Alan, welcome. Thank you for having this conversation with me. As I mentioned in my Instagram story, usually delegates like to talk to. Oh, you're muted. You are no
Oh my
longer
gosh.
muted. As I was mentioning, delegates usually like to have conversations with the people that they're going to vote for, and usually this conversation would happen, and would happen. Oh, that's why it's not working. I see. I can bring you up and bring you down. Yay. Okay. Usually this conversation happens in private, where I just ask you questions about who you are, what you stand for. But you've been gracious enough to have this conversation live and in public, so everyone can see, which is really really cool. So with that said, let's start with what does. Let me see. My first question is, what does the California Democratic Party chair do? Like, what are your
So the
responsibilities? Yeah, go ahead.
so the California Democratic Party chair is in large part in charge of organizing the California Democratic Party from its conventions, its organizing the DNC members to make sure that we're all moving together, we're all like doing what we're supposed to be doing, and overall just spearheading what the California Democratic Party is doing and what the plans are going to be for that year. So, and also like making sure that the messaging is on point. So a
How
lot of these stuffs and ideas come from the chair, and a lot of the people also who bring ideas to the chair. So it's meant to be as a conduit to organize the party.
Awesome. How exactly does the chair bring ideas? Like, is it like a top down type situation? Is it not very horizontally integrated? As you mentioned, I mean, if the chair is bringing ideas, is it more of a direction we want to go in as far as organization, or overall messaging? Because I know the delegates, they come up with resolutions, they change the party platform. So how much of that is influenced by the chair?
I would say it very much varies by chair. A lot of chairs have been top down, and over the past, some of them have also involved themselves in different caucuses. And the current direction of the party is not one I'd like to see it going in. We have been hearing reports from some of our caucuses that they've been stripped of their powers of individually endorsing, or they can't do X, Y, and Z under the current leadership. So I definitely want to move our party back in a more democratic direction where people can share their ideas and are also bringing ideas to me as chair to just make sure how we can make our party stronger. So I want to make a very big focus on collecting ideas and listening to our delegates, and very much making sure that delegates can reach out to me if they have an idea, and seeing how we can craft it to make it work so that we are a much stronger party.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and actually, I was wondering, um, eh, there must be, and there's always common misconceptions, right, of what an assembly member can do, what a supervisor, a congressperson, what a president should be able and should not be able to do. Apparently, he's doing whatever the fuck he wants. But point is, what are some responsibilities that you're running for chair, right? So you're running against the incumbent, and it's only you and him. So, what are some
Mhm.
responsibilities that you feel befall upon the chair that the chair has been neglecting or failing to fully, fulfill?
I think the biggest thing for me is showing up, and not to say, not going to speak on what Rusty's schedule is or what he's been doing, but for me, I think more importantly than not, what we have not been seeing is, showing up in the community a lot, and, making those connections with those different groups, and just overall just being an organizer chair, because while it's important that, that fundraising takes key and all of the party stuff that needs to get done needs to get done, our people aren't seeing like the party chair, and the party chair is meant to be the party's cheerleader, like, hurrah Democrats, blah blah blah. but we're not seeing him, hitting the picket lines. We're not seeing him usually like attend all of these protests or actions. Like, uh, uh, the current chair does show up for like one action, but we rarely see him, and I don't think that's a direct. I don't like that as a chair or as someone who wants to, lead the California Democratic Party. I believe that the chair should be showing up because showing up is important. I think all of us really like take into account like who shows up and who doesn't. And showing up to work is very important, and that's something I really want to do. It's show up for our community at every event, at everything that under the sun.
Yeah, I can respect that. I remember, again, one thing I failed to mention: this interview is not a soft launch of a podcast at all. But during the Gavin Newsom with Charlie Kirk interview, which is oddly enough worth a listen just to understand what the psychology of the right is. Kirk made an actual interesting point when he mentioned that he was an activist and he really saw no future in what he was doing. He was just doing what he was until he saw someone at the top that resonated with him, right? And then he was like, okay, it was a sort of everybody's looking up. And I do see it with activists as well. Right now, I kind of feel like everyone's a little lost. We don't have someone at the top that we can absolutely rally behind. I know you just went to the Bernie rally. I'm a fan of Bernie Sanders, of Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, but sometimes like how can we fix that with how can we bring back people who don't who can't who look up sorry who look up and don't see themselves reflected in leadership.
I think it just starts with regular people running. Like before AOC became AOC, she was a bartender, and before like a lot of the people that are doing the work right now who are now running for office, you got David Hogg, Malcolm Kenyatta, who are now the vice chairs of the National Democratic Party. I think it just involves us running and just taking that bold step. Like running for this isn't easy. I'm up against like very big headwinds for people who like the current establishment right now as the way it is and who are not very much in touch with what the people are asked or saying and what the people want. And I've been talking to the people and they're very upset that the party hasn't spoken strongly on a wide array of issues or hasn't fought back aggressively what we're seeing as like a rise of fascism in the opposition party that has no problem engaging in what they're doing without any like fierce opposition. Like I'm not gonna put up with it as party chair. Like I will throw a sink if I have to, because you're not gonna have your way. Hell to no.
Yeah, that actually that's a good segue. I was gonna ask. So there's a lot. I mean, I respect you as a person. I respect your ideologies, but I imagine there are limitations as to what a party chair can do. Right? Obviously, you want the best person with the right mindset in the position. However, you are, I guess, in a sense, limited due to the free will of the delegates, the free will of candidates. Random people can run as Democrats, and if there's only one Democrat running, sometimes you get a dude that isn't necessarily the best person. But how much can you really do as chair? Like what is the far-reaching power? Say hypothetically, how far can you go with it, and what can't you do?
I always like to say you don't know unless you try. So there are limitations. Like we can't say like don't vote for this Dem because he's on the ballot, because I think I would be very much in bylaws violation if I encouraged the
Yes.
Democratic electorate not to vote for the Democrat on the ballot. But we might be exploring ways to hold people accountable who are not in line with our party platform and who are not in line with their communities. So whether that be like calling them and being like, "Yo, you're damaging our brand and you're not in line with the working class," we may be forced to pull funds because we will put an emphasis on our people and our communities before we put an emphasis on someone who's just running for the sake of being a Democrat.
Damn.
And that might
Okay.
be something we might explore. We don't know. But I think above all, we have to be consistent as a party and making sure that the people who are running for the people and not the corporate interests.
Damn. Yeah. I agree with that. I was about to jump in there because I know there's always talk of when someone steps out of line, and I hate using that term because, but yeah, who fails to uphold the values of the party and whatnot, and it's happened in the RCDP recently, and the the mechanisms in place to reprimand these individuals or correct these deviations per se. usually have no teeth. And you just mentioned pulling funding, and that's huge because obviously that's something that drives these campaigns. But okay, so talking about money, Riverside, California Democratic Party chair is in essence a fundraiser. So well, not just, but it's one of their main jobs. And this is a question from somebody else actually, is how do you plan to bring the party to a level that supports both candidates and operations through funding?
For me, I want to really just do a audit about where our funds are going and where's how much a lot of that funding being spent, because I know a lot of it is going to our organizing department, which is a very important thing, and some of it are going to our ballot measures and our candidates. But I also want to make sure that we are empowering our local parties, because a lot of the time I see the party taking like the full brunt of like this fundraising and paying these ads for statewide, and I'm like, if we can delegate that to our local parties as a way to also give them more power and get their name out there instead of us paying like potentially millions of dollars in TV ads, when we can also empower our parties to do the same, that might be one way. But I also want to ensure that we are also fundraising in a way with that is not with corporate money. And that also starts with a stronger message, because the people aren't going to donate to a party they don't believe in if they don't see that message that is reflective of them, that is showing that this party is going to fight back, that it's working class led, and it's full of working class people. So there's a ton of many different like things that it devolves into. But I do want to definitely make sure that we are fundraising strongly and we're really rooted in our community when we fundraise, and making sure that a lot of this funding is going to our local parties so they can do their operations, and also helping our local parties, if we can't directly give them money, find ways to fund our local parties and even do what is necessary with that messaging as well.
Yeah, because I mean the CDP has they have phone and field contracts, right? So how could is there a way could those could be used to support local candidates in a more meaningful way? Because they are being used. I know that because I work the RCDP. They are being used to a degree, but how can you further expand upon those field and uh, I guess media communications to local parties and candidates?
I think also is making those connections. I think, and really building those connections, because I think a lot of regions have even like just local people that post news like on their Instagram pages. I don't know, like if for those of us who don't live, for those who don't live in the IE, like there's like IE community news where it gets absolutely thousands of people just, and they just post just community news, which very is a deep sense of that's really connects with people. And I think it's very important that we start connecting with those community groups, and also those not traditional media, we call it, to make sure that we're able to campaign and reach out to people in a way that we wouldn't be able to reach, because not everyone has cable anymore. I don't have cable. When I don't, if the only place I see an ad is on YouTube or maybe Hulu, when I see political ads now on Hulu. But we have to really much organize in areas that we don't typically organize in, and we also have to be willing to even try new ideas. And I'm going to be throwing out so many new ideas that it might conflict with like people's typical conceptions of organizing, but
Can you name
I
a
always like
few?
to try new
I'm
things.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm
it's
I'm
always good. Like,
I'm open for that, but like, can you give me? It sounds like concepts of a plan, right? Like, what are these? Unless you're not willing to disclose them for campaign purposes, right? But yeah, no, I think that's something that could sway an individual hearing that this person is going to try absolutely new things. Because one of the other things that I did have for you is somewhere around here, a lot of young people have left the party. A lot of independents have left the party. Not necessarily left the party. I hear when they use that terminology because it's more so they've become so disillusioned with where it's going, and sometimes where good candidates get blocked out, good policy gets scrubbed via pandering to the right or to centrists. Um, how do you bring those people back in? Because it's so much harder to bring someone in once they've already gone. So, do you any plans on that? Any ideas on how to refresh the brand?
definitely, it starts with a strong message that says, "Look, if you're a billionaire, I'm sorry to say, it's time for you to go. Respectfully, if you're not in line with the messaging that we want to push, which is we need more unions, we need to We need a ceasefire, and we absolutely should think about stopping to send weapons to Israel, since Israel doesn't seem to believe that they're accountable to international law. And also, we are going to be taking the fight directly to the corporations and the rich, who are absolutely coming for all of the things that we have contributed and think that they're entitled to our funding. So, because I know that the Republican Party and rich people believe in socialism for the rich and, suffering for the poor. And that isn't something I would push as party chair. That message that we're going to be out in the community, we are going to fight back, and we are absolutely going to use every tool in the tool shed, whether it's protesting, having a sit in, anything as a party, because what we are currently facing is not a typical political crisis. It is a constitutional and democratic crisis.
I appreciate you answering one of my questions without me having to ask. Fantastic. So yeah, okay. So another question from the public is, what are you trying to reform? Because you're running against a longtime incumbent. And again, not here to bash Rusty. We are where we are, and we're at a turning point, right, in history, both as a state, as a country, as a people. What, in essence, are you trying to reform in the party? What great change would you bring? Or not great, but yeah.
I
Go ahead.
want
Sorry.
to explore new ways to get Democratic voters involved, and of course, we have our ADEM delegates, which I love that, but I also want to build a stronger connection to our Democratic voters in our communities, those who aren't so deep in the nitty gritty of politics. And for me, that starts with either sending them surveys or even just like funding our local clubs so they can connect more with our average Democratic voters. Like maybe have a potluck, or maybe, just like have a community event where kids come and chalk on the sidewalk and you have like a nice community barbecue. So very different ways that I want the party to get involved in the community, but
And that's
also making our ADEM process a bit more simpler, because this last one was a bit difficult. Some people didn't get ballots. I know some of my voters didn't get their ballots, and that is pretty bad. But I also really am trying to make this just party more democratic. I know in other countries, their voters have a very big say in their party, not just like the delegates, but also just the average community, the rank and file voters. I don't even like saying rank and file. Just our core, our base will have a bigger say in our party, and I want to really hammer that home. That I want to bring our base into a lot of the decision making in our party, so
for
that they
sure.
feel like this is their party.
Yeah, and quick question: you mentioned the ADEM process. Are you a delegate through the ADEM process?
I'm an appointed delegate, so I lost my vote, lost like my election by like 15 votes, so it was really close. And I really do think till this day, those voters who requested that ballot, who were not able to go vote in person, would have voted if it wasn't for like the fact that they registered and they said like, oh, I have the vote, I have the ballot here, but I couldn't because of the election.
No. Okay. So you brought up the ADEMs. That's an interesting one. As I'm also an appointed member through the RCDP. Who appointed you, or from through what channel are you a member of the CDP?
So from one of the clubs, the California Democratic Council.
Okay, cool. So the ADEM process to me was also somewhat convoluted. For anyone watching, the ADEM process is basically all those delegates per assembly district that represent the individual, I mean, the constituency through the Democratic Party. Every single Democrat can vote in those elections. However, you have to know when these elections are going to happen. You have to request a ballot. Once you get that ballot, you get a pin. It's a convoluted process through which not all Democrats really even know it happens. Would you be open to something like sending every single registered Democrat a ballot? Is that
I
something in the
definitely
scope?
like, but I also would up to be even sending them like a mail piece, like, "Hey, delegate elections are happening. Like, get involved and run for this position, and let's build a stronger party."
Yeah, because that's definitely something that needs. To me, that's the biggest flaw of the ADEMs is it's always the same people, and if it's someone new, it's because one of the same people brought them in, rather than just being, "Hey, you're a registered Democrat. This is what we do. This is how." Because a lot of people don't understand how the Democratic Party works or the Republican Party. I mean, all the parties. It's basically they think that Nancy Pelosi at the top is calling all the shots, but they don't understand that there's thousands of people across the state who vote for chair of the county state party and so forth, right? And the state party also votes on props, they vote on legislation, they endorse candidates for president, senate, governor, which I think is a huge flaw. Which I appreciate your openness to expanding that process, because it just feels so undemocratic that not everybody knows who their representatives are, and these are supposed to be those representatives, the people, the direct line. And I've seen that in the past few years, some members, elected members, have been kind of tipping the scales when that's not what's supposed to be happening. Is there anything that could be done to prevent that tipping of the scales from those who are already in power, from this system that's supposed to be the checks and balances, uh, for the democracy of the Democratic Party per se?
I think it very much starts with organizing and engaging our constituency, our Democratic voters. And I think really reminding them that no, they have the power. And I think I would encourage electeds to not get involved in the 8M process. Like if they want us to endorse in particular slate because they know a lot of the people on there, they're community leaders. Okay, but if you start paying and sending out mailers or like texts, I that's where I start raising an eyebrow. I'm like,
Yeah.
did you fund this or did the slate fund this? Because if
Yeah.
the slate opens a bank account and they're texting Democratic voters like, "Oh, come vote for our slate," and like there's no paper trail, then I'm like, okay, this might seem a bit more grassroots. But we do have to definitely make sure that we're engaging our constituencies. That hey, delegates are running. Here's all of the delegates that are running. These are all Democrats like you.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. All right, so cool. We're pushing half an hour. I think I'm gonna kind of start not wrapping up, but get to the last stuff here. Um, Unity. Democrats right now, fortunately, unfortunately, we're very divided. Progressives and liberals, and those who want to compromise with the right and with conservatives. How do you see us kind of making amends, or pushing forward with this divide that we currently have in the party? Is it possible?
I I think we strongly need to get on the same page. I would ask to those who are wanting to be a bit more diplomatic. I'm the most diplomatic person around for those who personally know me.
You just threatened to throw
Uh,
sink.
I am the most diplomatic person around, but also my grandpa, who was a bracero, a farm worker, told me, "Mijo, like there's times when it's time to be diplomatic, but when someone has shown you who they are and what their hand is and what their objectives are, at some point we must have this self-respect to realize that we are going to have to find other avenues." And for me, I don't see any compromise with the Republican Party of today. A party that's very comfortable with sending weapons to a government that's killing the innocent. I don't believe in compromise with a party that is deporting students for expressing their First Amendment rights. And even are even going further, saying that we should be revoking visas of people who have a thing called a thought crime. Even if they think the wrong thing, we should revoke their visas. And a party that's currently allowing the sitting president to deport people to a country with a dictator and who doesn't think that we should bring back people. They deported an actual U.S. citizen. I think the times we're facing is not business as usual. We are doing our ancestors a disservice, those who fought against Hitler and fascists, when we think about them as just like the opposition. We should not be entertaining this because they are the very thing that our ancestors fought against in World War II. The very proliferation of greed, the very proliferation of ideas that, oh, if you don't agree with us, then you are an enemy of the state, you're an enemy of the people. And that's what the Republican Party today is pushing, that what we all think that is not in line with them, we're enemies of the state.
Yeah, hell yeah, I'm with that. Um, you mentioned your grandfather was a bracero. My grandfather was a bracero as well. He was a welder, and I think he became a U.S. citizen. I'm not even sure if he became a U.S. citizen at the end, but yeah, fantastic programs. I actually think, well, not fantastic entirely, but they were different avenues. I think they were when people were trying to discover ways in which we could tap into immigrant labor without truly, um, just like closing the doors. Right? We need these people. We need our people, and In most cases, yeah, no, that's a different conversation. But as far as the California Democratic Party, as a child of immigrants, first generation American, um, I have an issue with the way we treat Latinos. The fact that we take them for granted. That it's like, oh, if you don't vote for Democrats, like, well, who are you? Yeah, no, I mean, if you're Latino for Trump, I'm sorry, you're stupid. But as a party, I think we have to understand why people are running away from us, why they're feeling um, misrepresented. I remember one of my things with Joe Biden, particularly, I wanted him to close the immigration camps at the border, streamline the immigration process, streamline green cards and temporary work visas, and he did the exact opposite, right? He did not do anything. My party let me down and my people down, and then they're like, why are the Latinos not voting for us? How do you how would you find a path forward trying to recover that trust that Latinos have in the Democratic Party? Obviously, as a Latino leader, that would be, I mean, that's the first step, right? But what else do you do to make them feel untokenized?
I think first of all is the first step is just telling them the truth. This party has stunk. It has not delivered for them. And I think we also should share the blame where the blame is deserves to be shared. Politicians who are very uncomfortable with the idea of doing dramatic changes or helping the people and Latinos. Because a lot of them were very concerned. Oh, what if people pouring across the border? I'm like, what if we pass a pathway to citizenship so people can actually come into this country and not have to go across the border? Or, oh, we should think about maybe even allowing undocumented immigrants to access the benefits that they paid into. Here in California, they pay around billions of dollars and I would have to get the actual number. But when it comes to asking like the state legislature, like, oh, can we have a program for unemployment benefits for undocumented people? Suddenly, the governor's office is, we don't have money. Oh my goodness, we are in a budget shortfall. We have no money, and I am left sitting here with the like annoyed face, like, no, we have money. If you would use the money that undocumented immigrants pay into the system, that they pay in themselves and just use that, the program would pay for itself. So we always have to be holding each other accountable and being like, hey, there's new leadership now. We're not going to do business as usual. I'll be honest and tell you the truth. I'm a Latino. I'm also going to be like not lying to you and just be like that's the truth. That we have people in our party who are very comfortable using things as political props and not actually wanting to deliver, or who are too afraid to be bold. And I'm sorry, in this country, we should never be too afraid to be bold because it was Democratic leaders of the past that got us to where we are right now.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
and
we,
I feel like I can't speak for other communities in the same way, but I have heard that from members of the Black community, from the LGBTQ plus community that do feel tokenized, right? And I think that's always something it's gonna piss me off because you're either gonna do something for certain communities or not. And I have very close people in my life who, as well as women, women, very close women in my life that feel let down by the Democratic Party in the same way, not at the state level, at the federal level, which I guess does not is not in your realm, but especially with Roe v. Wade, how honestly Democrats did not fight hard enough to protect women's right to choose, and I know there are political intricacies and there's a lot of backstage work, but ultimately a lot of people feel like Roe v. Wade died under a Democratic president, right? Even though it was under a conservative Supreme Court, we have to work around those perceptions that people have. I guess I mean this has been a really fun conversation, Alan. I really appreciate you taking the time. And just the last couple questions have to do with youth because you're young. I started when I was how old are you?
I'm 23.
Awesome, awesome. So I started older than you, and I got into politics when I was like 27 or 28. And even then, everyone told me like you're too young to do this. You're too young, blah, blah, blah. And I felt like I was fully competent to do the jobs. And to the day, I feel like I was competent to do the jobs that I was running for at the time. How much have you encountered that, and how much of that have you encountered, and how are you counteracting it? How do you quell people's fears that someone so young, not even so young, an adult just like everybody else. We're both delegates. We're on the equal standing. Uh, how does someone as young as yourself lead a party this large?
I always think about what people who came before me did, like the organizers during the civil rights movement who organized bus boycotts and who did freedom rides. And I always think about those who came before me because it was the revolution during the American Revolutionary War where you had like literal teenagers or like people in their early 20s who decided that maybe we should be a country and we should not be accountable to a king. And I think far too often than not, we don't center young people in the conversation as much as we should. And a lot of people, of course, are free to give advice to young people like, oh, we should do this, this, and this. But they should never feel that because young people don't have the experience or young people haven't been on this earth long enough that they're not worthy of being in charge of leadership. Because I think when you have a new infusion of ideas, that's what actually progresses society. Because the longer you are in a group, confined to that group, the more stagnant the ideas become, and it's so very easy to be disconnected. So we have to listen to young people and actually be bold and take those chances. Because FDR was pretty bold when he said that we should have Social Security and Medicaid, and he was called a communist for it because God forbid you help the poor and working class. So I
Yeah.
think very strongly that it's very incumbent that we empower young people and actually are willing to give them a seat at the table because the reason the Republican Party is so successful is they empower their young people. Like, if you think about the right, who do you think of? It's not old people. Most of the old people are not the ones who are leading like the media team and all of this stuff, and who is very representative of young men. And I think we as a party have to do that in order to win back younger people. We're going to have to empower them, put them in front of more TVs, and give them more leadership positions, and actually allow them to run with what they want to run with. Because I promise you, allowing regular young people who care about this party to be in charge are the best messengers. Those who are relatable and those who are from those communities.
Yeah, I dig that. Okay, I love that. Honestly, Alan, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I want to thank you for doing this. This has been a really cool conversation, getting to know you and what you stand for. I guess closing off on a hopefully positive thought is to other young people. You've been in because you've been around for a while. You've been doing this. I remember seeing you for a hot minute at rallies and just you've been around. So how would you encourage young people to get involved? I know like the first time I ran because I saw of all people Michael Moore at one of the Me Too rallies after the first Donald Trump thing. No, even before that. I don't know. He mentioned run for local office, right? I'm like, yeah, sure, I could do that, right? I ran for local office. Uh, and that seems like a very powerful way to do things, but I quickly encountered a lot of things that discouraged me from continuing that path. And I see others that they tell them get involved, start carrying water for someone else, and they tell you kind of to step in line and wait your turn. And I love that you're not doing that. How would you encourage young people right now that want to get involved in a meaningful way? What can they do?
First of all, I think so very important before getting involved is find your community, find your people first, because politics is a very superficial game for a lot of people, and there are people who will not have your best interests at heart, and it's very easily to fall into depression or fall into these very real things that affect a lot of people in politics. I can name a lot of people who've told me like, oh, I'm depressed, or oh, I have anxiety from being in politics because of this and this person who has not been there for me. I'm like, before that, make sure you find your people and you take care of your mental health, because it is those people who care about you and who are going to uplift you up and continue to believe in you that you should keep going no matter the obstacle in your place, because it is those people who will carry you even further and prevent you from burning out. But to say that to those who want to get involved, find those groups that you care about, and also don't be afraid of running for something for the first time and being bold enough. It is okay to fail. I'm going to say this right now, that I don't know everything as running for candidate for state party chair. I'm researching as I go, and it is because I care about this party and I love this party so much, because it's been my political home for so much, that I want to save it, that I want to make it stronger, that I want people who have been left out of the process, being kicked out or whatever it may be. I want to bring them back in and actually give them positions in our party and empower them because this is their home. And I'm willing to open that door for everybody to get involved. I don't believe in cliques or groups, but I believe in people who actually want to get in and do the work and actually build a party that represents them and build a country that works for all of us. And I believe in empowering them, no matter experience level, because in order to face this crisis, it is going to take all of us. We can't be picky with who wants to come in through the front door because if someone wants to put in the work and fight for someone they don't know and get out in the community, organize, fundraise, get on the media and call out Republicans to their face and tell them they're full of shit, then that is someone I want in this party because
Oh
we
yeah.
need a party of fighters, not a party of diplomats or those who just want to sit back and act as this is business as usual. We are poorer now than we have ever been. We are in a new gilded age where the wealth is at the top and we can't even buy a house. We can't even buy a carton of eggs that is like $15 or $12 for some people. So I want to make sure that, that you're not afraid to do it. Trust me, I'm a little nervous. I was a little nervous when I announced. I'm like, am I going to have repercussions? Are people going to come after me? Is my career in politics dead? But then I realized when I shared on TikTok that there are people out there in this country who are inspired with what I'm doing who are like, yes, we need more people like you. Yes, I'm so glad you're running and you're not afraid. Because my grandpa always told me, Mijo, the only thing you should be afraid of is me and your family. I'm like, if you are afraid of somebody else coming after you politically with the platform you have, tell them to kick rocks and that they haven't met a Mexican.
Damn. No, that's a powerful message, man. Yeah, I can hear your grandpa. Well, yeah. Best of luck to you, Alan. Honestly, you are an inspiration. I'm older than you, and I love being inspired by younger people who are like, yeah, no, I'd like to be like Alan someday. Um, Hell yeah, dude. I wish you the best of luck, and I want to thank you for joining me today, and thank you, everyone in the chat who put out just positive messages. Positive messages are always great. And yeah, when's the election, and any final words?
May 30th through June 1st. The convention is going to be in Anaheim, so I will be sharing some info. So if you could come volunteer at the convention, holding signs and following me to some of the caucus meetings, I'm definitely going to need your help because this is going to be a tough race. But you know, we young people we work hard enough as it is. Some of us have 2 or 3 jobs, and then we also go to school. So if we aren't burnt out from the amount of workload that we're doing, I'm not going to be burnt out now. Uh, Definitely also joined my family when they were in the fields doing farm work during the pandemic. So I am not afraid for hard work, and I'm really excited. And also, thanks for like the questions, y'all. And also, don't be afraid to push me, y'all. Like, be realistic. Be like, no, you're Alan, you're full of crap. Where is how are you gonna do this and this and this? And if I don't know, I will tell you. I honestly don't know because that's also me, just me being a human being, saying that I will do some more research on that.
Of course, nobody knows everything. And lastly, where can people find you if they want to know more about Alan Vargas?
Yeah, so right now we're setting up our website because we're currently fundraising because surprise surprise, I'm a little poor. Just like the rest of us. I can't, just on day one, I don't have like $10,000 lying around to just hard launch my campaign. Now we're fundraising, but on social media, I'm Alan Vargas for CDP chair. It is all together. There is no space. So, and it's with the letter 4, not the actual word 4.
Bold. All right. Yeah, hell yeah, man. So, all right. Well, thank you. And I'm going to end it right there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Alan, very